Hey everyone, and thank you for tuning into this video. Glad to have you. Last week I put all 16 AFC teams into a 4-tier tier list, and this week I will put all 16 NFC teams into the same 4-tier tier list. The tiers are teams for whom I don't see the path to the playoffs, teams that I would not be surprised if they made the playoffs, even though I wouldn't necessarily pick them to make the playoffs, teams that I'm picking to make the playoffs, but I would be shocked if they won the Super Bowl, and of course, teams that I wouldn't be shocked at all if they won the Super Bowl. Before we begin, I remind you to hit the like button if you enjoy this video, to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Let's begin. We begin with Tier 4, likely eliminated by Christmas. I do not see the path to the playoffs for any of these teams. For the Giants, I like Brian Daboll. I think he's a good coach, but Daniel Jones is not an adequate starting NFL quarterback, which sucks because he has a cap hit somewhere around $47 million. Oh, and they lost Saquon Barkley. Carolina, I don't think they'll be 2-15 this year, but they're still far from a playoff quality team. They haven't made the playoffs since 2017. Bryce Young, sure, I think he could improve, but he's still completely unproven. Dave Canales as a head coach, completely unproven. The Saints, I think Dennis Allen is a pretty good bet for the first head coach to be fired this year. Look at their schedule weeks 2 through 5. At the Cowboys, home for the Eagles, at the Falcons, and at the Chiefs. They're at an overall talent, quarterback, and head coach disadvantage in all 4 of those games. That looks like a 1-4 start. And the Cardinals, I think they will be better this year. I liked their draft a lot. However, their defense is still not good, and they play in a division with the 49ers and the Rams, so that's tough. Up next is Tier 3, maybe playoff teams. Washington, I believe Dan Quinn, he's a defensive guy, ran a very successful defense in Dallas. I believe he's going to improve that defense a lot. And I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to start or not, but if he does, Sam Howell isn't a very high bar to clear. I believe they should have an upgrade at quarterback. The Vikings case is very similar to that of Washington. I don't know who's going to get the start between J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold, but here's a fun fact for you. 4 quarterbacks throughout the entirety of last season threw 4 or more interceptions in one game. The Vikings had 2 of them. Of course, those being Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins, both after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. Like Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy is completely unproven, but if he wins the starting job, I think he is in a very good position to succeed in his rookie year. Seattle. Although the quarterback position remains a significant question mark, they have a lot of young talent on both sides of the ball, and their new head coach Mike Macdonald ran a very successful defense in Baltimore. I think he will make that defense in Seattle better. Tampa Bay, even though Kirk Cousins joined the division, this team won their division and a playoff game last season and retained most of their core from last year. Dallas, maybe the hot take of the video. I have them in maybe instead of likely. Don't get me wrong, they've won 12 games each of the last 3 years. They still have a lot of talent, but not as much as last year. I think it's safe to say they had a pretty disastrous offseason, and the extensions of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, none of those are done yet. I don't know. And lastly, the Bears. Their defense really came on in the second half of last year. In the draft, they added Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze. They acquired Keenan Allen through trade. Given that this team won 7 games last year, I think 9 or 10 wins is very possible, which puts them right on the border of the NFC playoffs. Tier 2, likely playoff teams. The Rams, yes, Aaron Donald, huge loss. Nobody can deny that. However, they have a lot of young talent. They have drafted very well over the last couple of years, and it's worth noting that Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback head coach duo other than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, obviously, still together that has won a Super Bowl. The Falcons, of course, they added Kirk Cousins. Now, I know he's 35. He's coming off a torn Achilles. Throughout his career, he has not been very mobile, so he's obviously not going to be mobile at all at this point in his career. However, I don't think he will need to be because Atlanta's offensive line is one of the best in the league. To me, the Falcons look like clearly the best team in easily the worst division in the NFL. Philadelphia. Of course, they were inexplicably awful at the end of last season. This remains one of the most loaded rosters in the NFL. One thing that plagued the Eagles all last year, even when they were 10-1, was a bad defense. They added defensive coordinator Vic Fangio in the offseason. That defense should certainly be better under him. And lastly, Tier 1, bonafide Super Bowl contenders, Green Bay. I know Jordan Love doesn't have a huge sample size of success. However, the Packers have a history of doing things right with quarterbacks and offense in general. I can't even remember the last time they had a bad offensive line. They have a lot of good young talent at the offensive skill positions. The 49ers, not much explanation needed. When their entire team is not on IR, over the last 5 years, they've been in the NFC Championship game or further every year. And the Lions, who went to their first NFC Championship game in 3 decades last year, they kept almost the entirety of their team together and their genius offensive coordinator. Yeah, this team is going to be back and more than capable of making a Super Bowl run this year. And that will be all for today. I remind you to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe for more. I also encourage you to leave a comment telling me what I was right about, what I was wrong about, and how I can improve these videos in the future. I appreciate the feedback very much. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you again real soon.